You're gonna learn an important lesson today, guys. Don't mess with a trained woman unless you want to get your ass kicked.
Excuse me?
Oh, take it easy.
What did you say?
As a SEAL for 12 years, I learned quick that testing and evaluation are critical. I want to have the zip ties knuckle to knuckle. You have no idea what works and what doesn't until the bullets actually start flying. And now that I'm out, I get tons of people asking me all the time about their favorite TV shows and movies. What's realistic and what isn't? Well, there's only one way to find out. It's time to put Hollywood to the test. I'm Tamra, and this is Media Lab. All right, welcome back to Media Lab. So I'm excited about today's episode because we're gonna go a little bit outside of my perspective, and we're gonna talk about fighting in a combative mindset from a woman's point of view. So I've got my friend here, Tamra, and she's got a little bit of background on personal protection. So from a woman's point of view and perspective, what are you thinking about when you handle or encounter these situations?
Well, first of all, it's hard to tell if a situation is going to become violent. For women, we don't want it to become violent, so we don't ever just automatically go there. Right. But in the event that it does become violent, then we have to make sure that we're committed to doing whatever it takes to protect ourselves.
One of the key things you just said right there was ultimately intent. You've got to have the right training, you've got to have the right mindset, but intent is key. So we've got a scene, and yeah, it's from a fantasy clip, but it shows exactly what we're talking about, and it shows the intent and what you shouldn't be doing.
Valerie! Thank God you're all right.
Where were you?
I was trapped in that brazen beast all night. I finally broke out.
I'll hurt you.
No, you won't.
Please don't.
Fantasy flick, yes, but there's some key takeaways from that scene that we want to talk about. Obviously, she lacked intent. Obviously, she wasn't using the weapon properly. She was too close. And from a woman's perspective, right, that was a great scene to highlight. So what did you see in that?
Well, first of all, I like the fact that she had a weapon on her in case she encountered danger. But she was too close. She obviously wasn't prepared to use that knife. She wasn't fooling anybody.
She put herself in a really vulnerable situation. Like, here's my blade. I have it, and it's just hanging out now. And now really bad things are going to happen. So from a blade perspective, what do you think?
You know, one of the things that I see with women that carry blades or firearms or anything is that if you're not willing to use it, you're almost better off leaving it at home, right? If you're just gonna have a blade and you're just gonna leave it out there, you're almost handing it to the person to use it against you.
Yep. So what we're gonna look at is a scene that we are gonna break down that we all really liked. We brought it in and we said, yes, we wanna focus on that. The girl has really good training and there's some really good moves, and we all talked about it. We really like this scene from Enough, and we're gonna play that and watch it right now. So what's the first thing we see? We see nonviolent posture, right? We always talk about MVP and how it plays into your environment to put yourself in the best situation possible.
It looks like she's improvising her environment. She's using that to her advantage.
Exactly, like space is your friend, distance is your friend. Putting objects in between you from the attacker. What can I use in my environment? I can use the lamp that she threw. Anything that's gonna be able to equal the playing field.
He grabbed her foot. She used that opportunity to get a nice strike into the face.
And then, of course, he jams her into the wall.
That's a Krav Maga move for being choked specifically against a wall. It worked in her case. It's a very effective move if that's all you have to work with.
All right, so Tamra and I are gonna break this scene down. We're gonna walk through it. The first thing that happens is he throws that big haymaker coming way from outside. She sees it coming and redirects his energy. So from a standpoint of a smaller girl or a smaller frame dealing with somebody that's bigger than you, redirecting your energy is pretty effective.
Absolutely. I don't want to get hit with that punch. And if I can not be there, I'm gonna not be there.
So now you're avoiding that situation. You know, learning how to manipulate them is just as important. Now she puts something in between us. She tosses this CD case in between us. Now he starts slipping all over the place. He ends up falling here to the ground. She takes that opportunity to throw that strike right to the face with her foot.
When she saw the absolute right opportunity to use the least amount of effort possible, boom, right to the face.
Once he gets back up, she takes off and now starts putting space in between them. She's manipulating her environment. She's putting an obstacle between them. And the first thing that she's doing is looking for a tool that she can use. She grabs the lamp and whatever you can get your hands on. But the one key thing that I'll say about that is Kelly McCann taught me a long time ago, something is not always better than nothing. And what that means is improvised weapons are great, but don't get so hung up on them that you focus in on, like, I've got to throw that lamp at him. Next thing you know, you're tangling up with that guy again. So use that distance as your friend. Understand understand when the right time to use improvised weapons is, and then utilize them the best way you can. So he flies across the table, he busts his ass, and she ends up trying to run up the stairs. He gets lucky, grabs her by the ankle, she ends up falling. So instead of locking up and freezing, what does she do? A couple effective strikes right to the face with the heel. Pretty effective, right?
Yeah, this is the strongest muscle group you've got. And boom, it'll really be a devastating hit.
Once she gets back up, he ends up rushing her into the wall, and then he goes for that classic Hollywood choke again.
So her arm immediately shoots as straight up as possible. As she does this, she's dropping this shoulder downward, and that's creating some space between herself and the wall. This is gonna allow her to turn sharply at 90 degrees. At this point, she's gonna come down like this, and now she's in the perfect position to deliver elbow, elbow, hammer strike. I personally think that one elbow would have done the trick, but it's Hollywood. They added a few extra strikes for effect.
But the great move that I like after that is that she goes into that half clinch and she throws that really effective knee right to the face. If you throw that correctly, that's gonna be lights out. So once that happens, she does a shuffle around. Now he's got his back against the wall, and now he's throwing the last strike, which is, again, another haymaker, pretty typical that we see. That's why we like this so much. But he throws here, she redirects, he ends up smashing his face, and then it was lights out for him. This was a really good scene, which is exactly why we want to get it in here. Maybe the choke I don't necessarily agree with. There's some other alternatives there. But now, the funnest part of Media Lab, we get to go do it in full speed. I'm gonna wear some high gear, and she's gonna kick the crap out of me.
So all you've done is further piss me off.
All right, so full speed is always the test and evaluation, and I'm really glad I had this suit on from London Bridge Trading Company, because if I didn't, I'm pretty sure those strikes you threw at me, even on the first 30 seconds, it would have been pretty much done. So how did they feel from your perspective?
That felt great. Anytime I get to kick somebody's ass, it's great. You know, when your adrenaline goes up, your technique goes down. So even if you're trained and you train in this all the time, doing stress drills is really gonna drive it home and test your skill under the pressure. Because if you don't train that way, you're not gonna fight that way.
Like we were talking about before, you cannot train enough, right?
That's right.
Awesome, thanks, Tamra. All right, guys, this week's first question is, what's a good self-defense firearm for a woman? So conveniently enough, we're talking about a woman's perspective. So typically I try to tell them to go see what feels right for them. A couple off the top of my head, obviously Glock 42 that just came out. Can't go wrong with it. I wish it was a little bit smaller. The Bodyguard's a really good option too from Smith & Wesson. Those are a couple of good options. So obviously a very personalized thing is getting a firearm to conceal and carry. So go find out what fits right for you. Next question, what's your favorite superhero? Without a doubt, Tony Stark and Iron Man. Obviously, it's more realistic than anything else. Put a suit on, go do one-man ops overseas and go chase down bad guys by myself. Definitely the right answer. Keep sending those questions in on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you guys next time in the next episode of Media Lab.